Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. So want to thank everybody for jumping in here with us. If you sat through the one that we did at 6 o'clock, there isn't anything different here for the one at 7 o'clock. So if you don't want to hang out with us, totally okay. We'll go through the same information. Zach and Michelle and I will talk about our return to play protocols. And then if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A down below, and we'll answer them either as we go or at the very end. We're going to try to do our best to stick to just talking about the return to play stuff. As we know, there are obviously always multiple questions about other things going on in the soccer world. But this is the topic for this evening. So Zach and I were talking yesterday, actually, that it was March 11th or March 16th that we sent out the initial email, saying we'll be back in 2 weeks, and here we are. Obviously, we couldn't be here without the kids. We couldn't be here without your families. We couldn't be more excited to be able to get back and have some games and give a lot of our players, a lot of your children, some of their normalcy back, even with some of the adjustments that we have to make with the COVID protocols and what have you. But we just want to say thank you. And obviously everything that we talk about going forward is being done so that we can stay open and have the best environment at our facility that we can for your children, and obviously the safest environment to keep us moving. We'll go through a handful of things here, talk about the face coverings, kind of our best practices that we'll continue to do with our, it's not a whole lot different than what we've been doing for the last 6 to 8 weeks. And then Zeka will go through some updates from NorCal about what just kind of the leagues will look like in the next 4 to 5 weeks, and we'll go from there. Okay, so face coverings, they are still required, and they will be for probably a little while longer. I don't know. If I had a crystal ball, I would tell you that it would have been done a long time ago, but it isn't. So we still have to follow these guidelines, and our guidelines and our mandates are anybody over the age of 5 years old needs to be wearing a face covering. It's required still to be worn from our players before and after training, and it will be required for them to come from the car to the field for games and anytime that they aren't active. So if they're a sub or they're standing around or what have you, they should still be wearing their face coverings. And these are not our mandates. These are coming down from the Department of Public Health. You'll see our coaching staff and the opposing coaching staff, as well as any support staff, athletic trainers, what have you, should be wearing face masks or face coverings. And in the event that we have people who either cannot wear them or absolutely refuse to wear them, we're going to block off some parking spaces behind the fields that we will clarify for all of you guys, and we'll send out a visual of that, and you'll see them blocked off as we get into games. But we want to be able to have people who maybe physically cannot wear them because of medical issues have the ability to sit and still be able to watch their children from the comfort of their vehicle, much like you guys have all been doing as we've been going through this. And those will be set up in advance of the weekend games. Temperatures, we're still taking temperatures. We're supposed to be doing it before every single training session, and we will do so before every single game. We will document those so that we do have notes in case anybody is over the number that we're not allowed to be at, which I think is 99.6. I could be wrong on that, or it's 100.2. We'll clarify that because in my own head, I can't remember anymore. I've taken my temperature so many times in the last 365 days. I don't know. We're going to contact trace for those of you who traveled or played any games outside of the state prior to the December mandate that we couldn't travel. We reached out to every single opponent post our events and communicated with them if we had any issues or if they had any issues. So we'll continue to do that as we play through the NorCal League, which Zeka will talk about a little bit later. But any and all players are going to have their temperatures taken, as well as staff, in advance of games. Michelle will now talk about the hygiene and sanitization. You're muted, Michelle.
Thanks, Matt. So hello, everyone. When equipment is shared during any activity, we ask that you recommend or we recommend that you perform the required hand hygiene of washing your hands with soap and water and scrubbing for 20 minutes. If it's not possible to wash your hands, then please use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. We have 3 hand sanitizing stations for family members along the walkway, one by the red, one by the white, and one by the blue field. Also, we have hand sanitizing bottles on the benches for the players, two on each field, one for the opposing player's bench, one for our bench. Players are required to sanitize their hands before they go in for play if they come out at halftime. And we have the water faucets are still, fountains and faucets are still turned off at the complex. So please make sure your child has plenty of water and or liquid to drink. We will not be sharing water. We can't share liquid. We can't share snacks. That's all per the mandate. The restrooms at the complex are sanitized and cleaned every day before practice. They will also be cleaned on the weekends before games. And once we start actually physically playing games, they'll come in and sanitize them midday, somewhere between 1 and 2, depending on what our schedule looks like for the day. Next slide, Matt. Social distancing measures. Individuals, and that is all individuals, coaches, family members, players are required to keep 6 feet of distance at least anytime that they are at the complex. Individuals participating in events should maintain 6 feet of distance. On the sidelines, we have those that scrimmaged last weekend or those that practiced last weekend. Notice that we have 2 sets of benches for the home team, 2 sets of benches for the away team on each sideline, plenty of room for the players to spread out on the field. Please make sure that you're maintaining 6 feet of distance. Players are not allowed to leave their cars until 30 minutes prior to kickoff of the game. This applies to the home team as well as any opposing teams that are on the property. For parents, we ask you that you do not leave your car until 10 minutes before kickoff of each game, and we will be strictly enforcing those policies. Again, the 6 feet of distance is for members, non-household members. So if you're sitting there with your husband, you of course can be closer, but if it's anyone outside of your household, you need to maintain that 6 feet of distance. Parents, we will not have the benches on the sidelines. We have those all locked up to maintain that 6 feet of distance. So please make sure that you bring your own chairs to sit in this weekend. We will be allowing parents out of their cars for scrimmages and games. However, you must still remain in your car for all practices. And that we're asking now that for games, players travel with only members of their household to the games to mitigate the risk of transmission. That's it for me.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. So a lot of you guys have been following. It's definitely been a long road for all of us. I think, agree to disagree. I think we all got to understand what the mandates are. I mean, the last thing we want as a club is to start playing get shut down because people are refusing to follow the protocol. So we ask you guys, to really help us police this thing on the sideline within our own families and with opposing parents to make sure that our kids are playing. I think at the end of the day, this is why we're here. That's why you guys stuck with us for the last year without any games, because you believe in our club, you believe what we do. Those mandates are something that NorCal is going to have to follow. We were just talking early today. I don't know how many of you guys have followed, but in the Bay Area now, in the Santa Clara County, Mill Valley County now, they're requiring actually players to test 13 and above before they play on the weekend. So every county is going to have their own interpretation. I think in so many ways we kind of lucked out because soccer, we all thought it was going to be a high contact sport, that we were going to be pushed out a little bit further, but thank goodness that we're now able to play without looking over our shoulders. So within that, the 2 weeks ago, our state guidelines got released. A lot of you guys saw the article that came out. We were waiting. Sacramento County last Tuesday didn't make the cut. We were 15-2 and we needed to be on the 14 per 100,000. And then this Tuesday, finally, we got the good news. We hit the number. I think we ended up being like at 11-9 this Tuesday. So the beauty with that is once we play this weekend and once we start playing below 14, numbers can change and they can be we will continue to play. They're not going to shut us down. Obviously, everything can happen, but that's what we've been told. That once we start playing games and we hit the number, that the chances of us being shut down will not be there. So, Matt, next one. So within that, NorCal now, I've spoken to some of the players, some of the coaches, and some of the parents. NorCal is creating county events. So for event number 1, all of our teams, we apply with every single team in our club. We would be playing county based, so we will only be playing. We'll be playing Sacramento County clubs. I mean, 2 clubs that kind of comes to my mind will be Sac United and Union FC. And there's, I think, Sacramento County has over 50 clubs, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll be playing clubs that we haven't seen in a long time. Most of our teams are some of our first teams are better teams in a club. Obviously, we'll be playing age groups up to make sure that we'll still providing competition for those players. And event number 1, most likely, first weekend kickoff will start next weekend. NorCal couldn't get the schedules out fast enough. So we're kind of Sacramento County is the next on the list to get released to play. And we will have eventually event 2, 3, and 4. So those events are going to last about 4 weeks long. And eventually we will start going out a little bit more to Yolo County, Placer County, and other counties, neighbor counties. The goal is also we internally been talking about it, not only playing in the NorCal events, but also setting up scrimmages against neighbor counties like Davis and Placer and Blues and clubs that we haven't seen in a long time if you're in the older age groups. So that's kind of what we're heading. Regarding ECNL and ECRL, so ECNL boys, ECNL girls, and ECRL teams, the first open date right now for ECNL, the first day, it will be April 17th. Obviously, with not all the counties being able to play each other right now, April 17th was a target date that all the clubs felt very comfortable being at. So we'll go ahead and kick off with the NorCal events, and we'll be adding scrimmages for our teams too, and then hopefully all the other leagues will kind of come into place. If you do have any questions, guys, as we're going through this, the Q&A is there. You're more than welcome to start putting questions in there. Matt, next one. The next steps will be obviously we will be sending the protocols to you guys. Please review the protocols and please follow the protocols. There was a new waiver that, Matt, you're going to upload that on BIGA tonight?
Yes, it will go live as soon as we're done with this call.
So before any player can play this weekend, those waivers got to be signed online via BIGA. And obviously, again, I think we're super excited to be out. This week has been a breath of fresh air, not only for players, I think for our coaching staff. The fact that we can actually have contact now without being concerned what could happen to us. So the energy level at the complex has been amazing. You can feel the energy from the kids in training now. The intensity has picked up. So I know I can say for myself, we're super excited to be back.
Exactly. In regards to that waiver, just so everybody's clear, it's fairly simple. It'll take you a minute to read and then click and basically e-signature it. We're doing that because the state has basically told us that we need to give you a informed consent waiver as we return into competitions. So that will you'll need to fill it out for each player, but literally it's clicking a couple of boxes and submitting it, and it will live in their BIGA profile. So we'll have access to it.
So let's go to some of the questions. Can you see the questions, Matt, this time?
I cannot until I stop sharing.
Okay.
So I can stop sharing and then I'll go in.
Gerardo is asking, how does this apply to ECNL? With regards of ECNL being starting date a little bit late in April, so we're going to carry NorCal games all the way through it. So we could be doubling up ECNL and NorCal events and high school on top of it. So that will be kind of a challenge, we feel. But we feel also as a staff that our ratio to training and games are kind of off now. We've been training for almost a full year with not enough games. So right now our focus is going to be actually trying to get our ratio back to normal again. So we will probably be having more games in the spring carrying on to the tryouts than training. So we're going to try to kind of balance all those two leagues plus high school.
Lisa asked, will you share this presentation club-wide, or do managers need to relay all this information? So Lisa, I will, probably tomorrow, I'm going to upload to YouTube the recording of this, the recording of the one with the Youngers teams. We will send that out, as well as we will send the PDF of this presentation. So everybody has it. And the protocols we actually have in a separate document that I will, correct, Zeka, and that I can attach into, make a note for myself, attach into that same message, so we're not hitting you with 15 different emails.
Yeah. Jessica asked about ECNL Phoenix girls. We should know in the next probably couple weeks now. I spoke with ECNL this week. The city of Phoenix, where Reach 11 is, has been closed since December. So ECNL right now doesn't really know if Phoenix is going to be open. So they're in the process of kind of working that out. So we'll provide you guys more information on that as they come. There is actually some talks right now for boys and girls ECNL and ECRL to create a boys and a girls event on the West Coast. Also for ECRL clubs in the first week of June. So once I get the information, I can share it with all of you.
Tom asked a question, are the games going to be filmed? So during the shutdown, the club purchased 2 new VO cameras, which if you haven't seen them before, they basically go up on a tripod, we turn them on, we hit record, and they follow the ball. The technology follows the ball. So there's no requirement for a parent to touch it or somebody to zoom in or zoom out. It's pretty incredible technology. So we have 2 of those available. The priority for home games will be given to the older teams. So because we have many players, obviously, of the recruitable age, we're going to utilize those for them first. And they're good for about 3 to 4 games a day, roughly, in recording time. And then it takes about 8 hours for that to download. Or at least 8 hours at my house with the speed of my internet. So we will continue to do that, and we need to build out to where the players actually have access to create highlights within that as well, because they do have access to it. All of the coaches have access at this point in time as well. No, you don't need to reserve the cameras. We are going to prioritize them. They're sitting next to me in my office, but they will be at the facility on the weekends. And it's really easy to set up and take down for the coaching staff. Zach, you want to hit that one?
Can you talk more about, what was the question?
Tryouts and dates for this age group.
Yeah, so as of today, we had a NorCal meeting. There's a proposal of tryout window, as that all of you guys know, for the youngers starting May 10th. Okay, so essentially we always had the youngers go before the olders anyways. And then the olders following the youngers. So possibly May 17th starting day for the older tryouts. Things have not been confirmed yet. But they should be in the next week or 2. So we'll go ahead and get the information out from a purpose of planning for all the families.
So I think both of these kind of go in both places here. So for the tournaments for out of state currently, obviously right now the Department of Public Health has not walked back their position as far as not allowing California teams in any sport, although we know it happens in a lot of sports, to be going outside of the state. That's still in their current language. We're not certain when they're going to roll that back. We know they're getting a lot of pressure on it, but it's impossible to know what the timeline looks like there. So what we've relayed to the coaching staff and to the managers, I do believe, is as long as we're not at risk of forfeiting hotel monies or tournament entry fees, that we're going to hold on for as long as we possibly can before we pull a trigger to either say yes or no. And obviously that's out of our hands. Quite candidly, the ECNL has stated that they won't allow teams from from California at this point in time to attend their events until that's changed. And that's consistent with what US Club Soccer's position is as well, so that we would not have insurance, nor would we be able to play were we to travel out of state at this moment. Sorry guys, trying to roll through all these. First games will be scheduled, Jamal, for next weekend. We believe as early as that, from NorCal, and they're working on the schedule. And I know Zach has spoken to them today, as have I.
Yeah. So there was a question, expectations for additional out-of-state games, tournament showcases. We believe within the soccer community now, within NorCal, there's I won't say rumor, because I mean, everything has been we've been through this so many times, thinking that, it was only going to be 2 weeks, ended up being almost a year. But there is some inside information that NorCal has gathered, that the state is now adjusting their numbers. So eventually, for us to be able to travel out of state, we have to be to complete normal, which is, I think, the yellow tier now. Rumor is that the numbers are going to be starting getting adjusted by the state starting next week. And they're adding now the vaccination numbers, right? So whatever math they're actually working on, the numbers should be decreasing a little faster in terms of us moving on out of tiers. So the yellow is the one that we want to be at, because that's the one that the travel ban will probably be lifted. Our goal is, obviously, if we're out of there in April or May, whatever tournaments and showcases that we can attend, our club is committed to do that.
So the college recruitment question. So there's a challenge. So there's a challenge for us, obviously. First, for anybody who wants to be in front of Division I coaches, they've been pushed back until May 31st at the earliest, where they're going to be able to get out and recruit. With that said, obviously, to have the ability to tape the games and record the games for the older age group players, that is obviously of the highest priority for us. So, which is why we purchased the 2 cameras that we can utilize at our facility, one for each of the 11v11 fields. We have obviously the, give me the term of it, the virtual showcase that I believe were created for most of the older teams, that we just need to update with more video. We have been in contact with a lot of college coaches in the last couple of weeks, and frankly, until they have new video, it's really hard for them to really have anything to work off of. So video and games is priority 1, and then obviously updating those is priority 2. We will do some more college education pieces coming up, as I obviously I think I alluded to with a couple of our other teams earlier this week, so that we can keep people on track for both the youngers and the olders. So one thing that we didn't touch on is that on the white field, and I believe on the blue field, they've actually put out hash marks that are 6 feet apart 6 to 8 feet apart, because some of them I think were based upon my measurements from the summer, but 6 feet apart. And so it's pretty clear where you should and shouldn't be up and down that sideline for parents. Obviously, I'm not going to walk up to someone and say, "Excuse me, sir, do you live in the same house as this person?" Because we could be doing that all day long, but we would expect people to respect what the rules are. And if people aren't following those rules, then we're going to have to address them. And that's just what's going to be. And the lines of communication fairly simply will be from a manager to the coach. And if ultimately the club has to get involved, then we have to get involved. And by the club, I mean Zeka or myself, because we're not going to put that on anybody else. But I'm working under the assumption that everybody really wants to see their kids play and is going to do everything they possibly can to make that as easy as humanly possible for all of us.
I'm gonna go about the tryouts. So the question was, will tryouts be on the weekend for the older, since high school now is playing during the week? I mean, about 7, 8 years ago, before the high school got changed, actually, we used to have high school and tryouts during the week. The tryouts were obviously held later in the day. We don't envision tryouts being what they were prior, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So it's still unknown for us what we're going to be allowed to do in terms of tryouts and how many kids we're going to be able to bring in and look at and things like that. So, but yes, I mean, I think the older tryouts we'll try to focus having a weekend of older tryouts for sure. But there might be a couple of days there that we will do during the week too. So. You want to answer Gerardo's question regarding the cluster, Matt?
I think that's what I tried to hit on earlier. If I didn't hit that, Gerardo, feel free to text me, or we can go out and figure it out. I'll actually be out of the fields tomorrow morning because they're coming back and doing some more painting. Kim asked a question about, do we have a plan for those that are graduating out and heading off to college, as far as having a summer program or a summer league for them to play in? You want to hit that one, Z?
Yeah, so with the whole college recruiting being on pause, NorCal now we're trying to develop it was a U23 league and a U21 league. So they're not sure if they're going to go under 21 and U23 to give those players obviously summer games. So we put in that actually we would love to do it, boys and girls, if it was offered, to get some games and make sure the guys are playing and the girls are playing prior to going to college. But within that, obviously, most of the graduating players are welcome to stay on with our u18 team. Most on the girls' side, I think that's what they do before they leave to college. They just kind of roll in and they continue to train through it. This year, we're going to try to get a team and getting some games so they can, from a game perspective, they're getting more games, less training.
So somebody asked about college showcase for the olders in June. We have to get into the yellow, in the yellow tier, as Zeka relayed to, in order to have any potential tournaments. We have had discussions with other clubs about doing I'll just throw out a San Juan MBLA day, right? Or something along those lines, because if we have a bigger tournament or a bigger showcase, it's just with what our facility space is, it's impossible for us to manage. But if we have a two or three club event, we can manage something like that. And I know that there's interest. So that's something that will come hopefully down the road.
All right. Matt, I think there's a question, is the plan for ECNL games to play a midweek game and a weekend game? ECNL has actually, boys and girls, in order for NorCal teams to qualify for nationals, the ECNL league for this year is only going to be one. You're going to play every single club once only. Okay, so for the girls, it will be a 7-game season, and for the boys, it will be a 9-game season, with the winner qualifying for nationals. And nationals are to take place. They push it out. ECNL push it out to the end of June now, to give the college coaches an opportunity to kind of come out. So like a showcase. So our goal is just to play one game on the weekend for ECNL only.
So Madison Johnson asked the question about, will tryouts be on the weekend for the older, since there will be high school games going on during the week? I think that's a great question. And quite honestly, I don't know the answer to that. Basically, when we have tryouts, we are given a start and stop window. And so obviously we're talking about the Olders here, which it sounds like it'll probably be towards the middle to end of May when those dates are firmed up. Excuse me. My understanding is everybody's high school seasons are going to be a little bit different, but whatever that window that we're given, we will in all likelihood start on the first day that's available, is kind of common practice for us.
The next one was roster size. Obviously last year with us not being able to run the tryouts, we essentially brought everyone back. Obviously, if there was open tryouts this year, that obviously could change and kind of go back to normal the way it used to be. I think the most impacted age groups will be obviously the Olders, the u18/19, because they are merging to two age groups. For example, the u4s will be merging with the u3s next year. So a lot depend on, obviously we're not cutting we're not cutting players on their last year of the club. If they're coming down an age group, if they have a year left. So most of the impact teams will be our u19 teams. But I think everything should be back to normal across all the other age groups.
Zeka, this one's for you because I wasn't on the call. How many of the ECNL Northern Division teams potentially go to the Nationals?
AJ, can you type it up? I'll go maybe through the age groups because they're all different. U18s only one, U17s will be two, and then everybody else is two all the way. 13s one, 14s one, and then so the 15, 16, 17s are two from NorCal.
Question that came in: is there an additional need for cameras for away games, and if so, is this something parents can assist with in terms of funding? It would be awesome if somebody wanted to step up and help out with that, or if some buddies wanted to step up and help out with that. To give you a rough cost on the VO cameras, I think they're about $2,500, Zeka, per camera.
Yeah, it was about, with the membership, it's about 20, 28.
Yeah, so that you pay the one-time fee for the camera, which is about $800, and then you have to pay for the annual membership that comes along with it. That's good for the club or for a team. So a team could actually go out and buy their own if they wanted to. We actually have some families in the club that own their own, and they have as an individual setup. So it could be something that if the team wanted to go and own that, they could. We just have to figure out with VO how to connect it into the club platform so that your games were viewable by us and we could help edit them and share them with college coaches and what have you. If there's anybody that's interested in that, call me, because we'll get on that straight away, because it takes a few weeks for those to get here because they come from Scandinavia. All right. Any other questions? The only other thing that I kind of ended the last one with, and I'll say this now, I think we're all used to at some level change, and so we have to be flexible and understand that what is right now may change in a month, may change in 2 months, as far as what the protocols are or the expectations are, and we will do our best to continue to relay that out to everyone. As I said earlier, I will send this out to all of the families so everybody gets this, so the managers don't need to worry about that, with links to YouTube so that people can go watch these conversations, as well as the protocols. And that waiver will go live as soon as we're off this call, because I will go turn it on in just a moment.
The last thing I want to say, I want to appreciate all of you guys, all the parents in this club, for really sticking with us, and it hasn't been easy, I think, for all of us, and especially the kids. Just watching them this week in training and watching them laughing and engaging and tackling, it was probably, you don't know what you don't know, and I got to appreciate a little bit being around soccer more now than I ever did. So we're super excited about this weekend. We're super excited about NorCal. and getting our lives back to normal. So I appreciate you guys being patient with us and supporting our club. We couldn't do this without you. And we're looking forward to see more games, less training. So
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all very much. Have a great night. See you on the
Thank you.
fields.